Good morning, everyone. Open houses in New York City real estate remain a crucial marketing tool, though their effectiveness varies depending on price point, neighborhood, and market conditions. With the ongoing impact of high interest rates and evolving buyer behavior, turnout at open houses can be inconsistent, strong in high-demand areas, but weaker for overpriced or less desirable listings. Many sellers and agents still rely on them to generate buzz, but serious buyers often schedule private showings to avoid crowds. Virtual open houses and appointment-only previews have also gained traction, especially for luxury properties. But overall, while open houses are still relevant, they are no longer the sole driver of buyer interest in New York City's competitive market. And at the table with me today are Sara from Brown Harris Stevens, Mike Lubin from Brown Harris Stevens, and my protege, Avi Alkotzer from Compass, joins us today, and we're going to discuss all of it. But first, let me welcome my listeners and viewers from across the United States and all around the globe. I am Vince Rocco, and this is Talking New York Real Estate. So let's go behind the headlines and inside real estate, the state of our industry.
Hey, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. As an official moving partner of Brown Harris Stevens, we know that your clients deserve more than just a move. At Roadway Moving and Storage, we turn moving into an experience they will love. From specialized services to a white glove treatment, we've got it all covered. When you choose Roadway, you're choosing a peace of mind for your clients. Plus, our referral program is the most rewarding in the industry. Want to learn more? Shoot me an email at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Investors, this is your moment. I'm Scott Nadler with Cross Country Mortgage, and whether you're starting out or growing your empire, I've got the loan solutions to make your next move a success. Let's talk today.
Okay, everybody, we are back. So I want to talk a little bit about open house today. It's a phenomenon, always has been a phenomenon in this industry, especially here in New York City. And we have a bunch of experts here who author reports on open house, but understand, the strategy behind it, or, the help that it can give us when we're trying to sell apartments. However, in the last, 2, 3, 4 years, there's been significant changes, but Sara here authors a report for Brown Harris Stevens, well, for everybody actually in the industry. I want to just read a couple of highlights from last week's report. On average, our overall average of the survey was 3.56 groups of people attending each open house, and that was from 100 entries, About an 18% increase over the week before at 3.01. So, when I look at 3.5 groups, out of 100 people, surveyed, that's not a lot of people attending open houses, so we're going to get into that. Some of the highlights, though, 35% of our reported listings debuted on the market, which really translates to people are going to brand new, first-time open houses on the market. Everybody wants to see what just debuted. Everybody wants to really see what's available, what's out there. Brooklyn led the chart again out of this report, but Queens and Queens and the Bronx were not too far behind. People are shopping for more space. I think we can talk about that at some point. The higher the room count, the higher the average traffic out there. What I'm seeing in my own book of business, and we can talk about that as well, one bedrooms, first-time buyers, kind of snoozing, sleeping, not so quick to jump to market or to open house. Condition of apartments is a very big deal today, There was a point in time when I first became an agent that people would say to me, Vince, I want to buy a wreck, and I want to fix it myself, and probably the wreck is going to be cheaper than something that's already renovated. Well, things have changed. What is really happening? Sara, to start with you, how has open house attendance really changed in the last several years? We've gone from, almost a staple in our industry. When I first became an agent 23 years ago, it was always about attendance at open house, direct buyers that we can cull from, and you were great at this, Avi. What's happened to open house over the last, say, 4 or 5 years?
I think that COVID changed a lot. And you guys are really out in the field, so you can probably speak to that a lot more. But I think that ever since COVID, a lot of agents have moved toward open house by appointment. And then they give a time frame, and if they get a call, they go to the apartment and they show it. Whereas before COVID, I think the norm was you host your open house if the building allowed for it. That's the main shift that I've seen in the last couple of years, is that it's not a given that every apartment, or not every, but a lot more apartments are available during a specific time frame. But I think it's really important to note, and we've been tracking this for now almost 2 years, open houses that are live get better attendance almost across the board. The attendance is somewhat similar at times, but it's always leaning toward the open house that gets more traffic.
Mike, so, you've written a couple of things recently, and you're an expert at, preparing listings and getting stuff ready for market, including open house or first debut open houses. Talk a little bit about how effective this strategy of open house has been in selling properties. We already discussed it changed a bit, but is there still a strategy with why, we want to continue to pursue open house? And I'm a firm believer that we should continue to do that for a whole host of reasons. But give us a little bit of the strategy behind it all.
So much has changed.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Clearly.
Open houses were where we would meet potential buyers, where we'd meet neighbors.
Yeah.
Where agents.
Love the neighbors, of course.
Always important. They may want to combine.
Yep.
They may have someone for you. They will give you intel about the building. We don't meet the neighbors anymore.
No.
And we also used to see agents going to open houses, which is how we saw property. And it was nice because we'd be able to report to the seller. We had 5 buyers come by, 3 different brokers. So that population disappeared as well. One thing that I think is certainly still hurting us, and I agree with Sara, it was, I think, COVID-based, is that so many buildings shut down all open houses. Then they return to appointment only. And, I think these boards are concerned if it becomes public, you're going to have 100 strangers show up. We should be so lucky if we get 5 strangers to show up.
Be so lucky.
And it's hard
Exactly.
to get the buildings to allow the public open houses again.
Yeah.
Because they feel like it's, an invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
So we almost can't win because we want to be able to, attract as many people as possible. But they're so important. And it's also important for buyers to go out and see open houses before they're ready to purchase, because that's how they learn what they want, where they should be.
That's how you learn the inventory. That's how you learn the neighborhood. And
Absolutely.
I've said that all the time. But talk a little bit about the difference between by appointment only and the direct or live open house scenario, because there really is a difference. I have found, because right after COVID, we can only do by appointment only,
Yes.
right? I have found that does not work. I have found that when you make it public, even though it's not going to be heavily attended, you still get people.
Yes.
Agreed.
So give us the difference there. Why are people not wanting to make appointments on an open house Sunday, for example?
Well, the quote unquote more serious buyers and brokers do, and when I have
Correct.
buyers going out, I'm making the appointments on Thursday or Friday. The truth is, if you're not quite sure or you're premature, I think you're nervous to go through the trouble of making an appointment. You don't want to get someone to show up. If you're not ready, I think people are.
Is it Sunday and brunch becomes priority, and I don't know if I can get finished with brunch first before I go to an open house? I mean, open houses are you show up when you want to,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? You don't have to have an appointment, and you go to brunch. You don't go to brunch. You meet friends. Whatever you do, you go to open house.
I think we have to encourage our sellers to speak to their boards and to the managing agents to get open houses, public open houses back on the map. Because it really, what they don't realize is, the person on the board, when they go to sell, they would much prefer a general public open house because there will be more activity.
I think like anything else, you get people used to something, whatever that something is. And so for a bunch of years, you really didn't have a lot of open houses. 5 years ago, you had none. So people really don't like people running through the building unattended. So now some buildings you got to have a monitor in the lobby and taking people up and down the elevator. But Avi, you've got a pretty great size business. So, running across, price points. What properties, though, in your business tend to get more people at open house than not? Is it the larger apartments, as I said at the opening? Is it the smaller apartments? Or is it a combination of both?
So I think it's not about the price point. I think we have pockets in the city where you get more traffic. For example, this last Sunday I ran 5 different open houses: Battery Park City, Tribeca, Hell's Kitchen, Upper West Side. I can tell you Battery Park City had 0 people. Public open house.
Yeah.
No by appointments. I don't support the by appointments. I just 2 hours.
Right.
Good for you.
Have people come in, meet buyers, meet sellers, just be there. Tribeca had 6 people. So that's a pocket.
Yeah.
And then Hell's Kitchen 0 again. Priced well, listing showing.
I know I have 3 properties in Hell's Kitchen.
So
Tell me
yeah,
about it.
so I think it's not about the price point. It's about more where's the
demand.
the demand for the neighborhoods.
Okay, and so it's not really the size.
That's not the
whether-
part, yeah.
Okay. Sarah, in your opinion, I mean, you manage a lot of agents. I don't know how you do it, but you do it.
It's fine.
Always with a smile. But what are you hearing from the population about why isn't my open house, garnering, a lot of attention? What about this and what about that? I mean, what are agents really most concerned about today about the change? I'll use the word change or shift in the popularity of open houses.
Well, one thing, as Mike was speaking, I was thinking about that we have to put out there with the aggregator sites.
Yeah.
It's not as easy to get in touch with the listing agent.
Yes.
So if it's by appointment,
Oh, thank God.
It's a
it
nightmare.
kind
So
of gets
right. It's a
rerouted.
nightmare,
It's a
yeah.
nightmare.
So that's something I think we do have to mention. That's important. But one thing I'll say about just generally speaking, this time of year, we're in March right now. Looking back at the data in preparation of today, March and April and actually May tend to have the highest numbers. And believe it or not, anything over 3 is great. Okay, because we are surveying, every borough. We're surveying every price point, everything. So anything under 2 is it's weaker. So 3 and up is great. So we're in the 3s right now. We were the same as last year. But what everyone is saying to me right now is the quality of people this year versus last year. They're more serious and more engaged, which is very encouraging for me to hear from where I'm sitting. So last year you'd have not great traffic, but also the people who were coming in were not as serious about buying. They were kind of feeling out the market. And to your point, Avi, it depends on the neighborhood, what's in demand.
Right.
So that's really what I'm hearing.
Avi, so you talked about, and I agree with you because I do the same thing, open house versus by appointment only.
100%.
But let's talk about, appointments during the week, with the broker community, direct buyers, whatever.
right.
How is that faring these days? I have a couple of sales listings that, open house has been dead,
Right.
but appointments during the week have been amazing. Because as Sarah just said, the demand is sort of coming back. People are starting to really think about, should I not, whatever. But the appointments during what I'm seeing, but what about in your book?
So it really depends, again, what neighborhood are we looking at, right? Again, for some reason, I have to say, in Battery Park City and Hell's Kitchen, for some reason, crickets.
Yeah.
Priced well, properties looks amazing. Properties are just sitting for a very long time, and
Yeah.
suddenly February, March, contracts out. Townhouse that were 2 years on the market, boom, $8 million out of nowhere.
What about Battery Park City, though? Why do you think it's snoozing? I mean,
Well,
I'm
I
not
think
a
it's
fan
also
of
the
Battery
time-
Park City, but, whatever. That's
It's
me.
whoever lives in Battery Park City wants to be in Battery
Yes.
Park City. That's the niche.
Destination.
It is.
So just like you have buyers for the Upper East Side or you will not find them in Battery Park City, but also vice versa. Battery Park City will never go to the Upper West Side.
Right.
It's just the way it is.
Riverside Boulevard.
Right. So
another country.
I think March, April it's still a little bit cold. Battery Park City it's all about green and parks and sun and walking around. So I think once the weather will get warmer and nicer, people will be more out. That's the issue with Battery Park City or being on the river, as you know.
Not for me. I used to get blown out of my little sports car every time I used to drive to work. I'd be like, "Come on, I'm a big guy."
Driving
and every time I
like
open the
Talking
door,
about bad hair day.
push the door,
That's
the
right
bad
there.
hair day,
Yeah, that's,
whatever. And great place to live if you want to. But let me ask you, Mike. So the difference is, as Avi just explained, in your book of business, appointments during the week, obviously better than appointments or just general open house on Sunday. Right?
Yes, and appointments have been up. I think the movement in the interest rates has helped somewhat. I also think because there is a relative sense of unease in the world with a lot going on, people appreciate the value of home and the comfort of home and the security and the sanctuary of home. So I think that's actually propelling people to, whether it's doing a minor renovation or a little redecorating, or think about what kind of space do I want to live in? Because I know when I get home at the end of the day and have just been watching, news snippets and dealing with. All I want to do is
Your
just
heart
feel
pounds.
comfortable and
Right,
safe.
right.
And I think buyers are connecting with that a little bit.
Yeah,
right now.
I teach continuing ed. I mention this every week on the show, so excuse me. But the reason I bring it up today is because I talk to people about fear, okay, and how fear drives us and drives our every thought,
Yes.
our every movement, or every word at times. And even though they'll say, I'm not fearful, I have no fear, you all have fear, okay? Take it from me, you all have fear. Bottom line is, you mentioned it a little while ago, uncertainty around the world, uncertainty in government, uncertainty in our country, whatever, wars.
Stock market.
The stock market this past week or two. How do we arrest that fear in people? Because you're right. People watch television in the morning. I've had the TV on this morning as I'm getting ready I turned it off. I'm like, I have to go to work. Yes. I have to have a smile on my face. I'm seeing people I love. I can't deal with this, okay? So how is fear really going to be handled in our industry when we all know people need to buy? People want to buy, and people will buy, but they just got to get rid of all the noise and arrest that for themselves. And we're not therapists, I get that, but what do we need to do as agents to talk to our clients about calm down, pay attention to what is first and foremost in your world, in your life, locally, and move on?
I have an opinion about it,
Please share it.
What I think sometimes we forget we're in the service industry and we're in a hospitality industry.
Yes,
we need to make people feel welcome. We need to be nice. We need to be kind, and that means the brokers, the buyers, the clients, the appraisers.
Yeah.
And I find that tense tone, which is more and more evident, permeates everything. And it impacts the transaction. It impacts the showing. I made an offer last week on something, and I got an email that I've never used the expression lowballing. Like, I'm lowballing and someone's nickel and diming. I'm like, if someone presented an offer to me, first of all, we don't know where that number is going to go.
Really?
Be gracious. Yes. Be thankful. Let's try to make something work. We have to be nicer to each other. Amen. And when someone shows up at an open house, make them feel welcome. One of the things that I always, first of all, number one, put the toilet seats down. How many times I will often accompany a buyer to an open house. I'm embarrassed when I bring my buyer to an open house or to an appointment and the toilet seats are up. Number one. Number two, we used to have fresh flowers. I always bring fresh flowers to my open houses. Even if it just makes me feel better, I promise you when the sellers come home, they will notice it and they'll appreciate it, especially if you've thrown away the old ones and don't leave the trash behind in the house. I take the trash with me because I once was yelled at by a seller.
Listen to him, okay?
And she was right. She said, you know what? And I was offended because I'm thinking I'm bringing flowers, but you know what? I don't leave the trash behind anymore. But these little things make people feel good, and that's what's missing from our lives right now.
Yes. You're 100% correct, more so today than ever before, but many years ago when I was selling some new development buildings, I would take it one step further and start making my Sunday sauce in the model home.
Oh, wow.
And people would walk in and like...
The infamous. I've yet to be invited to try that sauce.
I know.
Okay. And I'm like, and people would literally go,
isn't that amazing?
Is someone cooking here? And I'm like, yes, I'm making dinner.
Well, there you go.
Sitting there stirring
you heard it from
the
me.
sauce.
Can you imagine if you bought this apartment?
Yes.
You can, and it worked.
Of
it
course.
worked. So you were 100%
It feels
right.
like
Because
home.
you know
You
what?
have to engage the
It
senses.
does.
We're selling lifestyle. We're
Yes.
not selling
You
real
are.
estate.
Yeah.
We're not selling walls and windows. So
That's
people, you
right.
have putting
It's an experience.
pictures
Yes.
in people's mind, how to host, how to make dinner, how to have people over.
I didn't make meatballs because that was too much of a process. But I
wouldn't
made
put
my
that past
sauce
you.
before they all came and it was stirring and whatever. And I'm like,
One of our agents, she bakes cookies.
I love
Oh,
it.
And
Yeah,
she
that's
brings
the best
them,
smell.
and
That's the best
the visitors love it. They love
But I have to say, we
That
are
is
therapists. When you said we are not, we are therapists. We are
therapists.
shrinks. We
Yes.
are marriage consultants. We are
Bartenders.
mortgage guys. We are everything from everything, and it's part of our job. I think that buyers come with a state of mind of why should I not buy, right? Instead of why should I buy. So you have to put that 10% and make them feel comfortable with everything that goes on. In the end of the day, people do need a home, and rental prices are going up. So
It broke
what is
records again this
the
past
exactly?
month.
So what is the solution for this couple or this family? And also, school district is very important these days. We are in spring, and people want to lock in a deal before summer.
Absolutely.
So this is, there's a lot of moving parts.
Which is a great segue to our next
I
conversation.
did it on purpose. because
Yes,
I know.
exactly.
You absolutely
handed
did it. So buyer and seller behavior. After this quick break, everybody's coming back. This is Talking New York Real Estate on a very busy Tuesday morning. Don't go anywhere.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, everybody, we are back. So I want to dedicate this segment to buyer and seller behavior, okay? Now, typically, buyers act one way, sellers act another way, understandably so. But sometimes in weird markets or, what I like to call broker market, and I learned that from Sarah's meeting the other day, we're really in a broker's market. We're not in a seller's market. We're not in a buyer's market. We're kind of somewhere in between, whatever.
Right.
So we all know that buyers are still out there. We do know that they, the serious ones are attending open houses or private private showings during the week. But what is it that they're actually looking for? And what do you think it's going to take for a buyer, not a seller yet, a buyer to actually pull the trigger? I have had so many buyers come through my 2 listings recently, and I just keep thinking, okay, somebody going to pull the trigger? And when? What can I do to make you want to do that? So what is that? Because I believe a lot of them are serious. What are they looking for? What are they wanting before they can actually pull that trigger?
I think they're all afraid of doing work right now. So anything we can do as brokers to prepare the apartment. I rarely list a home that I have not hired someone to touch up, floor refinish, paint, fix condensation and window panes. A buyer could think something is 99% perfect, see one scratch on a wall, and say it needs a gut renovation.
Yeah.
So somehow we have to preemptively make them comfortable with condition.
Talk a little bit about the setup of, let's hold that until we talk about sellers, but you're absolutely correct. You want to show the buyer that minimal amount of work needs to be done before they move in, because they are concerned.
Yes.
And in this world today, with the higher monthlies, including interest rates, and the common charges and maintenance that keeps going up, they don't want to renovate. They can't afford to renovate.
Right.
So it's a matter of, I like it, I'm going to pull the trigger, but yet I have a penthouse that's magnificent looking. Okay, it's a 1-bedroom with an enormous private roof. It's gorgeous. Sell it, please. But it's like there's not a thing to do. There's not even a little scratch on the wall, nothing. And yet a buyer still says, I thought I had a buyer last week, but we want to see a few more things.
That's what I was going to say. I think they want to see everything that's out there.
100%.
I think they're searching, whether it's conscious or not, as value.
I totally agree with that, because I said, okay, you know where to get me. You have any questions, just let me know. And as a father buying for the daughter flipped out over it, loved everything about it, and he did too. I hope they'll be back, but what gives?
Well, they're looking for value more than anything else.
Okay. How do we achieve that for our listeners?
Well, here's the
viewers?
thing. Here's the issue that we have right now with buyers. They're knowing that more inventory will come up because this is the season. So if you're not 150% sure that this is your next home for the next 5-7 years, then guess what? Let's wait another weekend, 2 weekends, and guess what? Now they're expanding their search to perhaps in different neighborhoods, and that's it. It's a limbo from there.
And actually, a data point from our survey is that first open houses versus everybody else are at least 4 times more visited than the regular.
And that proves
it's
the point.
often 6 and 7 times, but it's a minimum, usually 4 times more, because everyone wants to see the new.
Right.
What's out there.
Right. So the first 2 weeks.
But does that help them make their decision, or does that just confuse them a little more? Because as I say to buyers, and I'm sure we've all said this through the years, the apartments are all the same. They're in different buildings, they're in different streets, in different neighborhoods. They're all the same. You're looking at a 1-bedroom, you're looking at a 2-bedroom, you're looking at a 3. They're all the same.
So the question is,
what
how
is it
long-
you're looking for?
The question is how long the buyer's been searching. So I can give you an example. I work with buyers that came to an open house, directs, managed to convert them, and search for good 5 months. Not much of inventory out there, but as soon as a 3-bedroom came to the market on 92nd Street from Brown Harris Stevens, bidding war, and we managed to win it because they were ready. They were on the looking, searching, find the value. Lisa Lehman is the listing agent.
Our Lisa.
There we go.
She came in a great price point of $2 million for 3-bedroom. That's a sweet spot. And because my buyers were so ready, they knew that the value is actually much
were
higher. So they were really. So
they were out
the answer to that is depends how long the buyer's been on the market.
That's true. And you also mentioned before value, which is something that everybody looks at or used to look at. So when they find in their mind, so even if there's a bidding war, but if they find that they can get it for the right price, the value in their mind is there.
I find that they're really paying attention to monthlies now.
Yes.
Even with the wealthier clientele and the more expensive apartments, people are monthly oriented. So if a home, if it could be really well priced and, as you're saying, in perfect condition, if those monthlies are 20% higher than one might expect, that could be the kiss of death.
You know what's
You have to
interesting?
adjust the purchase price to compensate for the higher
What's
monthlies.
interesting to me, and we see it across the board, but I'm a building specialist in a building in Hell's Kitchen that's kind of sleeping at the moment. But what's interesting to me, sadly, is that the common charges, it's a condo, common charges are now increasing every year by double digit.
Yes.
You know, gone are the days of 4%, 5%, 3% in some cases.
Yes.
And I look at this, and I have a good relationship with the managing agent, and I, spoke to the property manager and said, "What are you people thinking about? Why?"
Yeah.
And you get the same excuse. Well, the cost of electricity and the this and the that.
Insurance
It's
is
insurance
big.
premiums are
Yeah.
high, and building staff wants more money. Well, yeah, and they always have. Now, on top of that, as you indicated before, interest rates are insane, even
Yep.
though they're normal based on history.
Right.
Okay, they're not so terrible, but they're higher than they ever were.
Double what we were used to.
Yes, the relative
And double-
past.
That's
yeah.
right.
And so when you look at the that, and I think that's really the only issue with my penthouse is the monthlies are a little high based on the increase in common charges and the real and the interest rate. What do we do about that?
Well, I
we
think to
can't
Mike's
we
point,
can't
you have
affect
to
that.
adjust.
We
for
have
the
to
price.
adjust. We have to. Sellers are not always as ready to admit that when those monthly. I have a 2-bedroom and the maintenance is now $3,700. It was $2,800 when they purchased it 5 years ago. Beautiful Carnegie Hill,
Wow.
renovated. The purchase price has to be adjusted to compensate, and there will be a buyer at the lower price, but the number has to make sense. And because what happens is when someone does go on a Street Easy and they look at the listing, it will calculate what that mortgage is going to be.
Yeah.
So if the carry is $12,000 a month for that apartment, but to rent it would be $6,000, $7,000, it doesn't make sense. The numbers are off.
Yeah.
It used to be more economical to own versus renting. So now it could be half as much to rent the same apartment. That means the purchase price is not correct.
All right, let's talk about sellers because I had a conversation with a seller the other day on hopefully a new listing. But, the comment back to me when I tried to explain exactly what you just said, because you're dead right on with that, is, well, I can't adjust my purchase price, my selling price, excuse me, his words. I can't adjust my selling price to accommodate monthlies.
Well, the answer is yes, you absolutely
You
have to.
have to.
It's so
And
hard.
I just kind of looked at them, after
I feel bad for them. It's not their
Yeah,
fault.
It's a hard
It's
conversation.
It's not their fault. It's
It's-
a hard
It's a hard conversation. And
Yeah.
sellers don't want to lose money. That's
You
the
have
issue.
to show them the purchase cost analysis
That's right.
and go
Correct.
show them what it's like being in the eyes of their buyer
Absolutely.
and what they're seeing and comparing it to other buildings.
I went there with what he paid for the apartment and what he was wanted to ask for the apartment. What I thought he should ask. There was a huge profit.
Oh, profit.
All right.
Oh,
That's good.
That's
news.
rare. That's rare.
Not as
That's rare
common
these days.
these
he
days.
bought the apartment 16 years ago. So
Oh, there
okay.
you go.
But the bottom line is, I think sellers, get steeped in history. And, well, my neighbor 5 years ago sold for X amount of dollars. And Vince, because you're always in this building. And I'm like, yeah, and I was the one who sold it. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Ain't going to happen today.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So how do you want to fix that?
So I think it depends when the seller bought the apartment, right? So if they
Yes.
bought it in the peak of the market of 2014, 15, 16, obviously they're going to lose money these days. But if they bought it,
Way before that.
so then there's a conversation to talk about, and maybe just
Oh, I'm not
have-
going to lose
Have
this.
have less
I'm not gonna
less
lose this
profit,
one,
but
trust me.
it's
I'm
it
not
really
gonna
depends
lose
on the
this one.
seller's state of mind. Yeah.
It's a seller state of mind, and I get that. In all of the time frames or different markets that I've been in the 23 years I'm in this business, I've seen it, both sides. But it's kind of like you're digging in, and you have that conversation with, okay, Mr. Seller, so we'll go on the market, and we'll get no visitation, and we'll get no interest, and we'll get none of this, and they're like, okay, so we'll wait and see.
That's right. I'm in no rush.
I'm in no rush.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm in no rush.
So if,
You never want to hear that. I'm in no rush.
that's the-
I get my price. I get my price. I think it boils down in general, like whether on the buyer side or the seller's side, is the motivation of the
motivation,
client.
100%.
So if a seller needs to sell, if a buyer needs to buy, they're going to transact. But if it's I would like to, it would be great to, a hope, then you have to, as an agent, I think you have to manage your own expectations about, how that's going to work with that client.
I think the solution, and I think the solution
You're
for this
absolutely
seller
correct.
is to tell him, you know what? If you don't want to listen to me, absolutely fine. We'll go with your price. But you promise me
Yes.
that within 3 to 4 weeks,
Yes.
if we're not getting hits and we're not getting the traffic, then you listen to what I have to say and we have to adjust the price. If not, it's a waste of time for both.
No, you're correct.
Which is a shame because the first 2 weeks of any listing period is the critical
Right.
period.
Well, that's-
when the most remember the
time-
people who
yeah.
want to see the new. You have a captive audience, and you want to capitalize on that being priced right. So it's and a lot of agents do that, and they have to many times. Otherwise, the seller won't work with them. So you have to do it their way, but it's just a shame because you can't get those eyes back.
But part of what's also happening
You
is that the
cannot.
seller doesn't want to give up their 2.5% mortgage or
Right.
That's- yeah,
go
that's-
into
Oh,
a
yeah.
purchase that's too high and then finance. So they're not, the seller used to be more motivated to go on to their next home.
That's true.
Wherever they're buying is twice as expensive as it should be. So they've lost their motivation. We used to be, cycle
Right.
people through the
Right.
sale, then the purchase.
So true.
So
And that's why we have lack of inventory these days
Yes.
because of that.
Which is
right.
actually
We're
not a
staying
bad
put.
thing,
Yeah.
that
No,
we
it's-
don't, we're
it's
not
not-
flooded with
That's right.
inventory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing at all. But
Yeah.
but when I said to you before, I'm not going to lose this one, it's because of
Just-
what you just said. I'm not going to take it at what he wants because it's really wrong. We'll negotiate a little bit down. And with that conversation, look,
Just
in
have a
3 to
mutual
4
agreement,
weeks,
And the weather's going to warm up. It's an
There you go.
outdoor, it's
Correct.
you have a big terrace, so it may hit at the right time.
correct. But I agree with what you just said, Sarah, before is, all eyes are on new. All eyes are what just debuts or previews. And you lose those eyes
Yeah.
when you sit for 2 or 3 weeks, even though we can negotiate maybe down a little bit. The likelihood of them coming back to see that, the price is reduced, maybe now I can check it out, I don't know. It depends. We talk about value. We talk about seller mentality. We talk about behavior. I stole Sarah's line earlier, saying it's a broker's market, not a seller's market, not a buyer's market. What does that really mean? That we are in a kind of broker market?
Well, because it's not really, you don't have listings that are getting bid up by buyers unless you're in certain parts of Brooklyn or the Village or I'm sure parts of the Upper West Side, so you don't have the trend in that direction, and you don't have a very strong trend for buyers that are getting steals across the board. So it's and you may have pockets for each side, but it's not one or the other. It's in the middle. So a broker's market is where it's really up to the broker to utilize their skill, their knowledge, their experience to speak to their clients and have these really, quality conversations about
on
the
what he said.
opportunity that's out there on
100%.
both sides.
100%. We are in a neutral market right now. It's not buyer's market, it's not sellers. We're really in this kind of in the middle.
Right.
And you're absolutely right. The deals that I'm experiencing right now is if you have a good agent on the other side, such have an experience,
Yes.
you connect the dots, you reach the mutual ground, it happens, right? The other agent educate the buyers or the sellers on the other side. So it's a teamwork. But if you have an agent on the other side and we all know we have plenty of those in this industry,
Banana heads, I call them.
it's just impossible.
I'm going to
Impossible.
take it a step further, which is I think as brokers, we have to be more direct with our clients and say,
100%.
this is why this apartment is right for you. Our clients are confused. They're lost in Instagram. They're lost in aspirational living. We have to be able to say, you
Instagram,
can't
right.
afford what you want, or the quality of the renovation that you're going to expect is going to be another $2 or $3 million. Here's why this works. We used to be more directive about strategy, and I feel like we have kind of become more passive, and we're letting the clients come up with the narrative. They've hired us for a reason.
Is that because the conversation is too hard sometimes for agents, or it just kind of morphed?
We're
into-
afraid of being wrong. We're afraid of being rejected. We're afraid of someone not listening to us. They want our opinion. And even if it may offend them, like, you can't afford this, it's a reality statement, especially if we're talking about co-ops. If someone is aspirationally looking for something that they really can't afford because you've now gone through it with them, it's our job to direct them to what they can and what they'd be happier with. I sometimes find that, especially when the co-broker's coming in, be part of the showing, engage, point things out. How often are we in with co-brokers and they don't say anything about the beautiful view or the ceiling height or the kitchen? It's like and I don't allow myself to just be there silent. Have an experience, even if you know it's not right for them. You're instructing the buyer about what to look for and what to connect with. Be engaged.
Hospitality.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all of that and more, and you're right.
Sell it.
And
It's our
I
job
think-
to sell it.
But as one of you said before, we're kind of consultants. Yeah, we also are
Consultants,
therapists, but we're also consultants
Yes.
where, they want our expertise, they want our knowledge, and
Absolutely.
sometimes the hard conversation or the hard talk is okay
That's
Yes.
right.
It's-
because they need to hear that. Not everybody's going to agree with everybody. That's fine, but they need to understand. Well, why are you telling me that, Vince? So why, that we have a disagreement in the listing price, conversation. They need to hear it.
That's
Now,
right.
whether they see that same value in wanting to sell quick, one of the other things I tell sellers all the time is, look, you don't want to hang on the market more than a few weeks, if possible. You want to sell. You want to price sharply. You want to price correctly, because that then is going to move quickly. It's going to potentially go into a bidding war, because buyers out there are very sophisticated. We talked about other sites that buyers can go and look up listings and send us links and whatever else. They also look at those sites and do the research on the comps.
Yeah.
They know what an apartment like that apartment they're looking at sold for in the building in the past. It's right there.
They're seeing the listing before we see it. They have so many searches set
It's so
up.
true.
They're hit instantly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I'm
They're
working with
expert.
a buyer, I get inundated with links. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Right.
But I
Very.
think it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
No,
Because
it's
once
not.
the
Sure.
buyers are educated,
It's
then there's
activity.
a common language,
Yes.
and so it's you feed from each other towards a better offer.
Talk to me about rental. So I
I wish I knew.
completed a rental deal this morning. Well, accepted an offer this morning on something that was on the market for a couple of weeks, and we only kept it for a couple of weeks because we were getting so much interest. I mean, 30 people at a time
There you go.
at an open house, or
Yeah.
30 people at a time with just, I'm showing from 5:30 to 7. No open house necessarily, and boom.
Wow.
Yeah.
We just also recently read a report that said the rental prices are, again, high.
Yes.
Breaking records again, whatever. What's the difference? I mean, one of you mentioned it before that the overall monthlies and the overall purchase price, whatever, is so far higher than the rental. I might as well just continue to rent, or I might as well just continue to go out there and find a rental.
Right.
I don't know if you're doing rentals these days.
I don't do much rental,
what's
but I can
happening?
tell you that actually because the rental prices are high, that's actually pushing
Yes.
renters towards the buying market. So that's
Is
actually
that really
helping
happening?
us. Yeah,
Yeah, happening?
100%.
Well, I think it's both. I think last year, because rates were so high, people were saying, I'm just going to continue renting. I'm going to rent instead. But I agree with you. I think the would-be now buyers are back in the game because they're seeing how high and competitive
and we are
it is
heading
to
into
rent.
summer, which is obviously,
Exactly.
so it's
We
going to
had-
get even worse.
Tis
We
the season.
just did, right before this, we just did a session with Dylan Pachulik, who manages.
Love Dylan.
He's great. He manages individual condo and co-op owner units. So he sees everything from his client's perspective. And he was giving us metrics on bidding wars on rentals that were unbelievable.
Right.
I didn't think it could go higher.
Right.
He's also having tenants agree to renew their leases at much higher rates, like over 10% increases, just because they don't want to compete with the rental market that's out there.
It's not worth it for them. Move
Exactly.
out, move in,
Yes.
fees,
It's not
the new
worth it.
rent.
Stress,
Right.
anxiety,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dylan Pachulik, his show is called, his podcast is called Managing Manhattan, right here on the More Network.
Yeah.
So be sure to tune into that. And we have to take another break. We will come right back after these messages. Talking New York Real Estate is just getting underway on this Tuesday morning. Don't go anywhere.
What do you really need to know about buying or selling a home? First, it's serious business. And it's complicated. There's a lot of money on the table, and emotion too. You need an agent who knows the ropes. So, whether you're buying or selling your home, work with professionals who have a mastery of the craft.
Okay, everybody, we are back. So, continuing our conversation about open houses, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the market in general, I want to ask these guys, the recent Norris settlement affected everything that we do, buyer-agent agreements. Buyers out there really don't necessarily understand what it all means. Avi, in your business, has it affected you or your buyers or your sellers or anyone, or is it just kind of commonplace?
No. It's just it's another conversation that you need to have and explain.
Yeah, I find it's been really nothing.
It's the new law. It's the new norm.
Right.
It's just explaining the sellers and you explaining the buyers, and that's it. It's super simple.
What about you,
Unless you
Mike?
make it complicated.
Yes,
That's the difference.
Well, and we all know that the banana hats make everything
That's a different
complicated. That's for sure. What
The
about
only
you?
change will be for appointment requests, asking for clarification of who's paying the fee and what the amount is. And I haven't yet personally seen this, but I think it can and will have the effect of scaring buyers away from committing to working with an agent. So they're going to miss the person who could be their advocate and be their guide and be their consultant because they feel that it's a fee that may not really be
So
worth
it's a challenge
money.
for sure
It's gonna
for
be-
now, but I
yes.
think
Now.
if you take 6 months down the
I
road,
agree.
we will not even have this conversation because everybody would.
Well, I agree with you, but I also think that right now, up to this point, a lot of buyers out there haven't really paid attention to any of that. So
That's right.
once it really becomes the norm,
Yes.
okay,
Right.
then we may have that tough conversation with, hey, it's worth working with a buyer and with the agent, and here's all the reasons why, whatever.
Our regions have been doing this since August, right? So we only implemented this in January. And so we speak to the regions all the time. How's it going in the Hamptons, Florida? Business as usual.
Right.
To your point.
Right.
It's just getting over the hump. And my mentor always says about this, it's not as much about commissions as it is about conversations. We have to be better about having conversations about the process with our buyers so that they understand the value and what it's all about, because at the end of the day, not much has changed. Sellers are still offering buyer broker compensation.
I
you absolutely
agree. Go
Sorry.
ahead.
No. So I think it's just educating the buyers or the
Yes.
sellers the value of having us, where people did not appreciate us in the beginning. So now you have to dive in and why we're worth that and why you should pay also the buyer's agent, because if not, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
But most of the time, they don't even need to pay the buyer's agent.
Most
the
of the time they
sellers are
don't,
paying
right.
it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No,
95%
talking to
of
the
time.
seller.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, talking to the
Sorry.
seller, yeah.
Okay.
No,
got
my
it.
listings,
Yes,
my seller's
absolutely.
agreeing to pay the 5% or the
Because
6%,
it's still,
whatever.
I'm getting those
Makes
questions,
sense.
recently since the
Yes.
Norris settlement. How much should we offer the buyers, if at all? I'm like, and then you just need to dive in and explain
Yes.
why you should pay the buyer's agent.
I agree with all of you. And again, my students, when I'm teaching, I tell them all the time, we as agents, right, the good ones, we have to learn how to better communicate.
Yes.
We have to learn how to better negotiate. And we have to learn to be, as Mike said before, more patient and more kind and more caring and show that seller, here is the benefit of what we bring to the table. Here are the advantages. Because, a lot of people in New York, everybody's always so busy. And I always say, busy doing what? Busy doing what?
being
We're all
busy.
busy. So what? Pay attention, right? Pay attention. Quick question on luxury properties. So we all know that recently, when things were kind of not doing so well, that high-end, that luxury market was screaming and booming. And whether it was an open house or whether it was a direct, appointment, why?
Value. Prices
Value.
went down,
But people
those are
say to me, how can
negotiation.
people in New York City afford these prices? And I'm like, because we're New York
It's
City.
New York City.
Bitcoin, stock market.
Well, there you go.
Last year.
But it's
it
also
was-
all cash.
And
A
it's
lot
all-
of all
and it's all
cash.
cash.
But imagine
Exactly.
negotiating for 29 million to 20 million. That's
Right.
a big negotiation.
That's important,
That's a
and
big
that's something
draw.
that I
Right?
want to bring up because we see these crazy numbers, and Olshan does an incredible
36
job with that
contracts
report.
last week. Yeah.
Yes, but I always go into the history, and when you look at the history of that
Absolutely.
property, it came on 4 or 5 years ago, and it's selling for 25 to 50%
Wow.
below the original ask,
Right.
Yep.
and that is almost a rule, not an exception.
Yep.
And it also is gratifying because you say, like, how did that one just fly off the shelves? Look at the history, and it
Right.
tells the entire story.
Right.
But this week, what didn't Donna say that there was 36 contracts?
36
Yes,
contracts last week.
Over $4
Over
million.
$4 million.
I mean, that's pretty significant. You said
Yeah.
people say, well, 36 is not a lot of. Yeah, it
a lot.
is.
Oh my
Over
gosh,
$4 million.
it's a lot.
It's a lot of. It's a lot of.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
That's also open house traffic The higher the price point, the more we're getting. in
Well, I'm
traffic.
going to ask you to talk a little bit about your report.
Oh.
And how people out
Didn't
there...
I already talk about that?
No. How people out there can subscribe, agents out there can
thank you.
subscribe
Yes.
to Sarah's report, because it really gives you a good history of the week before and what we need to look for.
It's a good indicator of what's happening right now, because sold properties that's old news. That was 3 months ago. In contract is more immediate, but the survey, I think, of where the traffic is, where the demand is almost immediate. So it's Openhouseindex at bhsusa.com. I'll give you the link so it can be in the description. So if you subscribe, you'll get the report, but we also ask that you participate, because the more people,
Participation is
and
all of
you
it.
are amazing every
Of course,
single
now I'm thinking,
week.
did we send our
you
Sunday one?
always do.
I mean, to make sure
He
we do
always
too.
sends it in, and I'm very grateful.
important. We have to
Yeah,
contribute
no,
to it.
because
Every week.
that
Yeah.
report helps me anyway.
Absolutely.
And even when you're talking to a seller
Yes,
and
you
you're
show
trying
it
to
to
make
them.
sense of, or have them understand what the market's all about, you show them the data.
Yeah.
And we
And
have
it's right there,
graphs
yes.
and pie charts, and so that way you could
another
forward
tool
that
for us.
information
Yeah.
to them.
Also,
That's what
literally
it's
boots
there
on the
for.
ground, no,
Yes.
no BS.
Yeah.
Boots on the ground
And it's
is where
for
it's all.
everybody. It's not just Brown Harris. It's the whole
No,
industry.
it's the whole industry,
Yeah.
correct. It's an industry report. So if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't contributed and participated, agents out there, please do.
It's fabulous.
Thank
We'll have
Thank
we'll
you
have the
for
link
that.
at the end of our YouTube description. Let's talk a little bit at the last few minutes that we have here about online marketing, online open house, announcements, social media, which I like to kind of bring up every so often on the show, because one of you said before, everything is social media. And guess what? It is. It is. And whether you're looking at TikTok for listings or Instagram for listings or Facebook for listings, people are going to social media for open house information, for real estate information. The gentleman I asked you to speak to last week is
right.
a
He's
king
amazing.
on social media, and his business is beyond unbelievable. What about social media in real estate is so addictive? It's a great marketing tool, and as I say, again, what I'm teaching, it's free. Take advantage of it. Use it. Use your brand.
We're in a visual business. We're in a business that even if it is a studio facing a brick wall, there is something photogenic, telegenic about it. And if we can capture a mood or capture an image, it helps us to sell what we're working with. We have to find the angle that is going to translate in a photo. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about using social media, is that it enables us to be creative. And I think many people who are drawn to real estate have a creative background or interested in the arts or go to the theater or whatever it is. Let it be fun versus intimidating. Have fun with it. And I think we can
You
really
do that very well.
Thank
with
you.
Your social media.
Yeah, he does. But you
Very
sometimes
artistic.
feel that we're overwhelmed with the amount of postings on social media from so many agents who participate. I mean, look, we're all on it. I get it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to participate in social media, my feeling is just do it right.
Yeah, be compelling in some way.
There's some videos there that it's
they're
embarrassing.
painful.
Well, when they're like this,
Yeah.
and you can't.
Or
you
just
get
very-
your head
yeah.
falls
Either
off
do
when
it
you're trying
right
to
or,
look at
or
it.
don't do it. Yeah,
Exactly,
absolutely.
I agree.
Right, but do you see a benefit or a value to it?
No,
agree
I'm the
with
wrong.
you.
I'm the wrong person to talk about social media. Tried it multiple times, except from some likes and some.
Well, here's an example. I'm going to be listing an apartment at 257 Central Park West, the Orwell House on 86th Street, and I was there yesterday getting ready for the shoot tomorrow. And I posted an image on Instagram with the address and the square footage, and I said, contact me. Or if I had 3 people reach out,
go.
and they're going to see it before it's listed. Now, those people wouldn't have known. How else would they have known? I wasn't going to call them.
Right.
So there is value if it's a coming soon, because I know that if I'm looking at agents who I'm following and they're talking about something that's not yet on the market, that will get my attention. So that is a tool of social media.
No, it does. And when
Because
especially
it's
when
not online. They
Yeah.
wouldn't find it online.
No, and when I see things like coming soon,
Yes.
it's like, okay, I know it's going to be listed out there eventually, but again, if it's a friend that you're following on social media, you might say, hey, what is this about?
Yes.
I might have somebody
Yeah.
in mind for that, right? I kind of go back and forth with the social media stuff. I either do a lot of real estate, I don't do a lot of real estate, or, the show, of course, takes a lot of my social media bandwidth. But if you do it right,
That's
if you're
it. It can
consistent,
be-
if you're really
it's a good
compelling,
tool.
correct.
The thing is, our
can be an
clients
excellent
want to
tool.
know we're doing something.
Yes.
Well, the clients love
Because
it.
regardless of their age,
Yeah.
they're involved in social media. It used to be, it was only the 20-year-olds or the
Yes.
30-year-olds. They're in their 70s or 80s, and they're all on Instagram because they're following their grandkids. So they just
Yes,
want to know we're
it's
doing
true.
something. If we have an open house, we're posting about the open house.
Again, you said it so perfectly well. People say, "Oh, I'm not going to put, my listing on, Facebook because, it's an older audience and it really applies to people who follow TikTok or Instagram." And I'm like, no. Grandparents,
That's
you just
right.
said
It's
it,
really
are
true.
looking to buy for their children or their grandchildren. We see that all the time. Or TikTok, they're too young, but maybe somebody will buy for them, right? You don't know.
Absolutely.
You have to just cast the widest net.
Yes,
I
we do.
think
You
it's
have to
not
be on every
that's
platform
it.
or none of them.
But I think it's as long as you're doing everything, and social media is one avenue, but you have to explore all the avenues. It's not the end all be all.
Right.
But it is a part of the business,
Mm-hmm.
and if you do it well and you love it especially and you're good at it, you'll get good engagement. But if it's something where you have to hire an outside company and they're doing it for you, or you're just kind of like doing it in a way that's
once in a
not
while,
well
yeah, no, you have
produced
to be
and not
consistent.
No,
yeah,
I call that
okay.
one-hit wonder. You can't be a one-hit wonder. That does not work. That worked in the 60s and 70s for music. It doesn't work anymore. Okay? Not going to work. Open house announcements, though, on social media. Do you think that has any place? Sometimes I think, in my book of business, it does, and sometimes I think, I'm at least, I think, notifying my broker community out there, friends who follow me, and I follow them. Maybe they have somebody, maybe not. General public, I don't know. What do you think?
Here's the thing. If you're at your open house and you just gotten there and the sun's coming in, why not take a selfie and say, hey, I'm here from 12 to 2, stop by. As you said,
Everybody
cast a
wants to
wide
see
net.
you, Mike.
If one person comes.
And Mike Lubin is saying that.
They're not
I'm
flooding
showing
in.
up.
But you know what?
I'm
If it
coming.
brings one person, why not?
Absolutely.
You're right.
Let the
And it
mood
takes a
strike.
second.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely correct. What do you think?
I'm silent here. That doesn't.
No, but it's good to have both sides.
Yeah, no, that never
doesn't-
worked for me.
But that's it.
Avi
You have to
sells
do
on
what
his
works
charm.
for you.
No,
That's
you know,
it. Everyone's
I
different.
Yeah, so for me, open houses, I'm announcing my open houses on Wednesdays or Tuesdays. Give enough time for brokers to set up. It's always public, no by appointments only, so people can work on their schedule. I think that's my exposure.
I'm going to ask you because I've known you for years. We worked together for years. And I think I know your secret sauce when it comes to being successful in this industry. And
The smile.
well, that too. But what do you do? How do you approach your everyday? Because in this business, we can be torpedoed every day. We can be lifted up to the stars every day. We can be in between every day. You always seem to, from what I remember, just kind of cruise through it all and just say, whatever, move on, keep going. What's the secret sauce that gets you up every day and gets you out the door to do best?
Well, thank you.
Your
thank,
best.
Thank you. Thank you. Very generous of you. Thank you.
Well, listen,
No,
I call a spade a spade.
I think it's.
He's the same way, by the way.
No, again, I think it's mentality, right? It's first of all getting up early in the morning, and everybody's saying it. Every podcast, I'm hearing that getting up in the morning. Is it really? Is it? Is there's a target in the end of the day?
Correct.
What you accomplished? How many people did you reach out? How
Do I
you
wanna
better
be
service?
memorable today,
Right,
is
and
what I say
how
to
many
myself
people you
every day.
service? I'm looking to service people and give them an experience. I'm not looking to sell.
But you are
anything to
also
nobody.
one of the more. I
Just
used to
hardworking,
watch him,
that's it.
and my office used to look right out onto the floor, and I used to watch him. He's like focused. He's a go-getter. He has no time for nonsense. Not that he's not nice to people because he is, but no time for any.
But to
he's
be
like
honest with
go-getter.
you,
And he
coming
was
to
always
the
asking me, what about this and what about that?
right,
and,
but coming to the
boom.
office and mingling and talking, it's
Not
not
what we're
my
there
it's
to
not
do.
my thing.
No.
You're there to work.
I'm just there for work.
Yeah.
And you come and you have to be on top of your game and you're top of your toes because a lot of good agents out there. So why this buyer should work with you, or why this seller should work with you, you have to bring the added value.
You used to come into my office, and he always had something, but it was always boom, 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 work, and I'd be like,
And move on to the
you
next
go
one.
get it, guy. Go get it, and he did. I mean, but in this business, you have to be, I think, focused, in a very positive way because again, this can knock you down.
You have to lose the ego.
tremendously.
Unfortunately, in this industry, there's a lot of agents with ego.
No,
and it drives me
ego does not
insane.
work.
You
No, no.
cannot work with them on the other side. They always come to you. This just lose all this ego and just
If
talk.
it's not
Let's
a team, it
talk.
almost can't happen.
Yeah.
But
What is your
really-
secret sauce? Because you are also enormously successful.
I know what you're gonna say.
What?
One thing.
Tell me, please.
gratitude.
Yes,
That's-
Well,
absolutely.
Okay.
I know that's one of your.
Absolutely.
Saging.
And staying positive. As you said, we get knocked down.
Yeah.
Right before I came in, I have a townhouse I'm selling on 12th Street. Evidently, someone tore through the garbage in front of the building
Yeah,
last
of
night.
course, of course.
Someone who lives on that block just called me screaming, hung up on me screaming. And I was trying to say, if I had known about this, of course, I would have taken care of it right away.
Right.
Meanwhile, I called the caretaker. It's being handled. It completely threw me off. It was as I was walking in here.
Yeah.
And if that kind of thing could ruin an entire.
Yes.
And it's just like catching your breath. I'm doing my best. We'll figure it out, find a solution, because it's so easy to get knocked off.
Yeah.
We have to just
Yeah.
get back on.
It's very easy to get knocked off. We are always the target, and you just never know what's going to happen.
right.
Sarah Rada is my manager, and she's the most loved manager in this company, and that's not a lie. So, I mean, it's always an honor to work with you and be with you, but you definitely have a secret sauce that lots of people don't have. And it's more than just your smile, because you're one of the smartest people I know. But what is it about you that we all kind of say, whoa?
You're so sweet.
Because
Thank
that
you.
makes our job easier.
Oh.
Right?
I think, like my way of living is do unto others as you would want done to you.
Golden rule.
Yeah, that's it. Because I grew up in a large family, and I was the youngest, and there were moods and fights and all of that, and people
Sibling
would
rivalry.
people would take moods out on me, and I always felt like if I'm having a hard time, that's no one else's problem, and I'm not going to make it someone's problem. So I have to manage that on my own. And I think it's just really treat others the way you'd want to be treated.
Yes.
And that's
So
that
simple.
really is like my guiding principle. And this business is tough. And my husband says to me, he's Israeli, tizrami, like flow like water. Because when you try to hold on to things, change is inevitable and it's a constant in life. And a lot of times I don't like change, and I try to keep things where they are. But the more that I can flow, like with that, it's like life happens. When you walked in the door, you said it's cold out, but you know what? It's nothing in comparison to what is going on the West Coast. It's like it all puts things in perspective. Okay, so garbage, is on the street. It's not the
figure
end
it
of
out.
the world. We'll figure it out.
That's right.
It's all good. But in that moment, you have to show up for that person, give them the space and the empathy that they deserve, but not take that monkey and put it on your back.
Yeah.
And make sure it stays, where it is, and you just go on about your day.
Well said. And as I always quote, a famous quote by Karen Kaiser Clark that says, you just alluded to it, life is change, growth is optional, choose wisely.
I love that.
Because if you don't go with the change, you don't grow with the change, you stunt yourself as an individual. And when I'm teaching two subjects in school that I'm very passionate about, cultural competency and implicit bias, which I've talked to you about before, I always use what you just said too. Do unto others as you want them to do unto you. Treat people with love, treat people with respect, be kind to people, be focused, be that knowledgeable source, be that expert. We are in the business of helping people, service industry, but people have to want to relate to you. They want to, feel your kindness, your love. You do to them how you want to be treated back. So, beyond perfectly said. On that note, we're out of time. We're coming right back with my thoughts for the week. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you hear a lot about how crucial it is to have the right partners in this industry. At Roadway, we don't just move your clients, we give them an experience they'll love. Specialized services to our white glove treatment, it's all about making sure your clients feel taken care of every step of the way. And if you're looking for a rewarding referral program, reach out to me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back with my thoughts for this week. So, New York City is a place like no other. It's chaotic, relentless, and endlessly inspiring. It's a city of extremes, where dreams are made and broken every day and where every street corner has a story, and believe me, it does. The energy is unmatched, fueled by ambition, diversity, and an unstoppable drive for success. People come here from all over the globe chasing something, whether it's fame, fortune, or simply a fresh start. And the only city, and rather the city welcomes them all. But not without a test. It's expensive, competitive, and at times brutally unforgiving. The hustle never stops, and neither does the pressure to keep up. But for those who can handle the pace, New York rewards them with a life that is so vibrant and full of opportunity and always evolving. One minute you could be lost in the anonymity of the crowd, and the next you might be finding yourself in a conversation with someone who changes your life. The culture, the food, the history, the architecture, it's a sensory overload that keeps people hooked. It's not an easy place to live, but for many, it's the only place that truly feels alive. Love it or hate it, New York City leaves a mark on everyone who stops or steps foot in it. And as I always say, this is my town. And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks to my guests for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, or TikTok at Vince Rocco. And John Wooden says, if you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it over? And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I'm truly grateful, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.